So, from a historical perspective, the 1980s, probably the late 1980s to 2000, really saw the development of desktop software that was based on a GUI interface. This is a graphical user interface. And this is the one that most of you are most familiar with. It's where you have a mouse or a pointer and you click and something happens. A large number of compiled languages were built during this time specifically for building these GUI interfaces, and they reflect both the architecture of the hardware and the fact that the GUI interfaces are fairly difficult to build, and they have a particular kind of structure to them. First of all, the architecture of the hardware. Virtually all the computers in that time frame were single processor machines, so there was no reason to build anything that needed concurrency particularly or multiprocessors because you just didn't have that kind of hardware. So this was going from the quite often multiprocessor batch processing systems where you saw people building things like databases that took advantage of that architecture to desktop machines that didn't have that kind of architecture. Now, the proportions are that in some application like Microsoft Excel or Photoshop or GIMP, I think I'll do an example with GIMP, probably 90% of the code actually wasn't the actual logic that did the work. It was now suddenly the stuff that handled the user interface. So everything was focused on how you build better software to build these user interfaces, and consequently a lot of systems were built that are really very good for building user interfaces, like Microsoft's Visual Studio and Xcode from Apple, that are dedicated to how you put together the user interface and how you attach the code. A good deal of the reason why object-oriented programming thrived is because if you look at a screen, each region of the screen is a particular kind of object. Each button is an object within that. Each one of these has an associated set of behaviors that all tie together in that object hierarchy. And then you're programming a bunch of things with a bunch of behaviors. So, GUI interfaces are a mixed blessing. There's a good side. They are very adept at things that you drag and drop and move around because that's the way the mouse works. And if that's all you're going to do is little drawings or drag things around or click on something and highlight it, it's a wonderful thing. Another good side is they require very little training. And in all seriousness, most people will not sit down and read a manual on how to use a piece of software. They will just like point at it and poke at it. And if you can get people to point at it and poke at it with no training, then you don't have to mess around with getting them to actually understand it. But let's take a look at Excel for a second. This is actually not Excel, this is OpenOffice, but it is an Excel clone. And look at what is pointable. Okay, the reason I'm using this is because right around 3/4 of all organized data, columnar data, is in spreadsheets in the entire world. So it's a good example for starters. So I can point at things. Okay, I can click on a thing, but you'll notice at this point, guess what? I'm going to put in some sort of a program that I'm actually typing. So the ability to use a mouse like that to work with a particular kind of input provided a tremendous capability to build things. The predecessor to these was a program called Lotus 123, and yes, it was character-based and it worked really well, but the mouse provided a lot of additional capability and worked really well for a lot of things. Now, along with this comes the difficulty that spreadsheets are also very error-prone, and getting things to work the same way on a repeated basis is difficult inside a spreadsheet. It's not a trivial thing. It is a programming language. So the other bad side to things that are spreadsheets is that GUI interfaces are very hard to test. Let me try to explain this in terms of state machines. All the data that you see on the screen is some sort of a object model. And then somebody clicks on that object model and we do some sort of a transition to a new state of data. Now, as soon as we start putting it in these kind of terms, when we start talking about state machines, what you realize about GUI interfaces is that the mouse can only make changes that are in a deterministic finite automata. And what do we know about deterministic finite automata is that they're a smaller model for things than some sort of a language, a push-down acceptor. So an Excel spreadsheet has both, but the real work gets done in the push-down acceptor, the language, whereas the mouse is just making state transitions that are limited to things that can go from one state to another state by some sort of a transition. Now, when you look at it in those kind of terms, you're very bounded in what the mouse can do. From a purely theoretical perspective, we know that this is a smaller set of capabilities than a language. And anything that is some sort of a language will always have a more diverse set of operations because you can build more complicated things with it than you can with a state machine. Now, a well-designed GUI interface it's a joy to use. They're great. I mean, I use one every day for shuffling through windows, for getting up things, for Excel. There's lots of capabilities. But they also have some odd behaviors. The one that I would describe to you is yesterday using GIMP, which is an editing tool like Photoshop. I go to double-click on a file, an image, to bring it up in GIMP. And I bring the image up, but when it comes up, it wants to ask a question about converting the image. And I don't notice that there's a dialog box that's modal. I'll explain what modal is in a moment. That's asking me to convert this image in one form or another. And nothing comes up on my screen. So I turn around and I click the same image again because it didn't seem to open before I noticed that there are two of these modal dialogues. Then I go and I answer one of the modal dialogues, but it's on the same file as the other modal dialogue. And consequently, GIMP is now really confused, and it won't open either one of them, and the whole program hangs. Let me draw you a state diagram that describes this kind of behavior. And what happens is that we have to ask questions about, for every possible state,